All right, today we're going to continue reading Gloria's Way by Anne Cameron. And today we're going to read the second chapter, which is called The Promise. Letitia is my new friend. One day she asked me to play house. I don't want to, I said. Why? Letitia asked. Because I never did, I said. Why? Because Julian is my best friend and he doesn't play house, so I don't. I'll ask Huey, Letitia said. She went to find Huey, Julian's little brother. I went along. Huey, would you play house? Letitia asked. I couldn't do that, Huey said. Why not? Letitia asked. Because of my brother, Huey said. If I played house, my brother would laugh at me. But maybe he would play house if I asked him, Letitia said. Don't even try, Huey said. Letitia got angry. I always play what you all want to play, but nobody will play what I want, she said. She went home. We didn't even see her for 3 days. Then she came over to my house. Julian and Huey were already there. Where have you been? Julian asked. Busy, Letitia said. My dad got me a new playhouse. He did? Julian said. Can we see it? Maybe, Letitia said. What do you mean, maybe? Julian said. We're your friends. Letitia looked at us thinking. If you promise to eat apple pie when you come, you can play in it. All right, we said. Do you promise? Letitia said. Of course, we said. We promise. Come at 2, Letitia said. We took Huey's dog Spunky with us to Letitia's house. Her new playhouse was in the backyard. It was white with a high-peaked red roof with little windows in it, and 2 more windows in the main room, and another room with a flat roof that would be good for jumping off. The door had a fancy, shiny gold key sticking in the lock. We knocked. Letitia opened the door. Come on in, she said. Your pie is ready. We went in. The first room had a table and chairs just the right size for us, and a doll bed with a doll in it. Spunky sniffed into all the corners and wagged his tail. This is neat, Julian said. Come on into the kitchen, Letitia said. We went into the little room with the flat roof. It had a pretend stove and a pretend sink. Our pie was sitting on a low shelf under the window. It didn't look like any apple pie I'd ever seen. Why do the apples look raw? I asked. I baked the pie with sugar sprinkled on top in my pretend oven, Letitia said. My pretend oven only has pretend heat. Why is the pie so white? Huey asked. I couldn't make a pie crust, Letitia said. My mom won't let me keep butter here. She says it will attract bugs. The crust part is just flour and water mixed. Flour and water mixed? That's paste, I said. Paste can taste good. I tasted some at school once, Letitia said. Letitia, I don't want pie, Julian said. I'm not feeling good. Me either, Huey said. I ate a very big lunch, I said. I don't want any either. You all promised you would eat it, Letitia said. And it's good. Maybe Spunky would like it, Julian said. Spunky, come, smell this pie, Huey said. Spunky walked up to the shelf. He sniffed the pie. Eat, Huey commanded. Spunky's tail hung down. He walked away. Spunky doesn't even want it, Huey said. What does a dog know about apple pie? Letitia said. This pie has almost exactly what's in apple pie. It has flour and sugar and apples, and you said you'd eat it. You promised. We changed our minds. We won't eat it, Julian said. You have to, Letitia said. Before we could answer her, she ran out of the playhouse and then she locked the door. She came around and stood by the window with the shiny gold key in her hand. You locked us in, Julian shouted. That's not fair, I shouted. You said you could play in my playhouse. I said you could play in my playhouse if you ate my apple pie, and you promised. So eat it, promise breakers. Letitia walked away right back into her real house and turned on the TV. We are prisoners, Julian said. Spunky whined and lay down on the floor. Huey touched the pie with his finger. In the sticky stuff, an apple slice moved. It does have apples. It's creamy, he said. We could eat it, Julian said. We did promise. I touched the pie and licked my finger. It's paste pie, I said. If Spunky won't eat it, we shouldn't. How long do you think Letitia will keep us in here? Huey said. I don't know, I said. We sat down on the floor by the door. Julian put his eye to the keyhole. This isn't such a good lock, he said. Maybe I can open it. He took his camping knife out of his pocket. It had a long special tool like a toothpick. Julian stuck that into the lock. He tilted it and turned it, and finally the lock made a clicking sound. We pushed on the door. It opened. We took the pie with us when we left. I carried it up onto Letitia's porch steps. Letitia, we have something for you, I called sweetly. We dumped the whole pie upside down on the steps, and then we ran. In about a block, we stopped running. I guess she won't play with us now, Huey said. Her mom won't like the mess on the steps, Julian said. Letitia can clean it up. She'll have to, I said. What if she doesn't? Huey said. What if she tells her mom or dad, and her folks tell our folks that we dumped that pie? We were right to dump it, I said. Maybe we better talk to Dad, Huey said. I don't want to, Julian said. We don't have to tell him what happened. Huey said, we can just hint, and then we'll find out what he thinks. We went down to Mr. Bates' shop. In the garage, he has a little refrigerator. He got us each an orange drink, and we sat down with him in the office. What's new? He asked. Nothing, Julian said. Nothing at all, I said. There was a silence. What would you think, Huey asked, if some people did something they shouldn't do, but they had a reason? What people? Mr. Bates said. Just some people, Huey said. Just anybody. Mr. Bates said. He sipped his orange drink. It would depend on the reason and on what the people did. Well, say they dumped a pie on somebody's steps. That's all, Huey said. Did somebody dump a pie on our steps? Mr. Bates asked. Not exactly, Julian said. Mr. Bates set his orange drink can down on his desk. It made a tiny crash. Who dumped the pie on whose steps? He demanded. We, Huey said, we dumped a pie on Letitia's steps. You what? Mr. Bates yelled, and his eyebrows jumped about an inch. Dumped a pie, just a very small pie, Julian said. Practically no pie at all. It's practically like nobody dumped anything, Huey explained. It's almost like something that practically didn't even happen, except that this very, very tiny pie got dumped, I said. And it was us that did it. Mr. Bates bit his lip, the way he does when he's trying to make himself be patient. And you had a reason, he said. What was it? The reason we did it is this. Letitia tried to make us eat raw pie, and when we wouldn't, she locked us in her playhouse, Julian began. And then all of us explained the promise and everything that happened, and Mr. Bates never got mad. He only listened until we finished. Do you think we were wrong to dump the pie? Julian said. Yes, you were wrong, Mr. Bates said, but I can see why you did it. Do you think we should have eaten her pie? Huey asked. We promised we would eat her pie, and we didn't. Now we are promise breakers. Said Mr. Bates, and he thought a while, like he was thinking about a big detective case. First of all, you should never keep a promise to do something that is bad for you. You thought you were going to get a real pie. When you made the promise, you didn't have all the facts, so you were right to break your promise. Good, Julian said. We were right. But second of all, Mr. Bates said, you were wrong to make a promise without understanding it completely. It's not good to make a promise when you can't be absolutely sure you are willing to keep it. Huey looked sad. So we were wrong, he said. Maybe we just should have eaten Letitia's pie. Then we would still be friends, maybe. Mr. Bates took a sip of orange drink and stretched out his legs. He rubbed a hand across his eyes as if he was trying to clear them to look into the future. Today, paste pie. Tomorrow, toad pie, he said. Toad pie, Julian said. Do you think Letitia would make us eat toad pie? I don't know. What I think is when people are being mean and you don't stop them, they just get meaner. Mr. Bates tapped on his empty orange drink can with his fingers, like it was a way to send secret messages. I don't know why, but Letitia is being mean to you. You have to find out why to make her stop. She doesn't have any reason to be mean, Julian said. Maybe she does and we just don't know it, Huey said. Anyhow, she was wrong to be mean like that, I said. But you were all mean too when you dumped the pie, Mr. Bates said. I think you should help Letitia clean it up. And then ask her why she did the things she did. Letitia was wiping her porch step with a rag. She looked as if she had been crying. I was going to say, why are you so mean? But instead I said, are you all right? Yes, Letitia said. She sniffed. We'll help you clean up, Julian said. He took Letitia's rag and rinsed it at the faucet in the yard. He scrubbed the steps. Letitia, Huey said, why did you give us paste pie? Why did you treat us so mean? I like to pretend cook, Letitia said. I always wanted somebody to eat my pretend cooking. But you locked us in. Why did you do that? I asked. Letitia stuck her chin out angrily. Because you think I am a sissy. A sissy? Julian said. I never said that. We never called you that either, Huey and I said. You think what I like is sissy, Letitia said. I like to play house and you won't. You only want to do the same old stuff you always did before I moved here. I looked at Huey and Huey looked at me. We both looked at Julian. Julian put down the rag. Nobody ever told me you wanted to play house. I never knew. Gloria and Huey said, Letitia began. Not to ask you, I finished. What do they know? Julian said. I never did play house, but I could do it. You could? I said. I was surprised. You will? Letitia said. Sure, Julian said. I will too, I said. So will I, Huey said. Julian threw his shoulders back and stood up very straight. For a second, he looked very tall, almost as tall as Mr. Bates. You all can be whoever you want, he said. I'll be the dad. The end.